What if I told you that the United States is seriously considering taking military action to acquire an island, a strategic piece of land that has been part of Denmark for centuries? Yes, Greenland. The US government has officially declared it a national security priority. And what's even more shocking, military force is now a potential option. This might sound like the plot of a political thriller, but it's real. The US is weighing options to acquire Greenland, including discussions around military intervention. Why is Greenland so important? What makes this icy, remote island a subject of such heated debate? To understand why, we need to look deeper into the motivations behind this drastic move. Greenland, a vast land in the Arctic, has always been a semi-autonomous region of Denmark. Yet, for the US, it's much more than just an island. The Arctic region is rapidly becoming one of the most important geopolitical spaces. With its strategic location and untapped resources, Greenland is seen as a crucial piece in the new global power game. The US is not the only one with eyes on this land. Russia and China are also increasing their presence in the Arctic. As melting ice opens new trade routes and reveals valuable resources, Greenland's significance is growing. For the US, securing Greenland isn't just about land, it's about maintaining its dominance in the Arctic and keeping pace with its global rivals. But there's more at play here. What is the real mechanism behind these ambitions, and how could it change the global balance? To understand why the US is so focused on Greenland, we need to look at the bigger picture. The Arctic has long been a contested region with nations jockeying for influence, but today, global warming is changing everything. As the ice melts, previously inaccessible trade routes are opening up, and vast mineral resources are becoming accessible. This shift isn't just about the environment, it's about power. The US has always seen itself as the leader of the free world, especially in matters of security. The Arctic, with its growing importance, is no exception. For decades, Greenland has been a Danish territory, but the US has always had a military presence there. However, as tensions rise, particularly with Russia and China, the US sees the need to act decisively. But how far will the US go to secure its interests in the Arctic? And what will the consequences be for global stability? The first major flashpoint came when President Trump openly floated the idea of buying Greenland in 2019. This was a move that caught the world off guard. Denmark, a close NATO ally, was quick to respond. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen called the suggestion absurd and rejected the offer outright. The US wasn't deterred, however. Tensions reached a peak when President Trump announced he would cancel a planned state visit to Denmark. This diplomatic snub was a clear signal that the US was serious about its ambitions. The idea of acquiring Greenland, once considered far-fetched, was now in the spotlight, and it was stirring emotions and debates across the globe. Can you imagine the shock in Denmark and the wider international community? How would you feel if a nation as powerful as the US treated your sovereignty as a bargaining chip? But this wasn't just a diplomatic spat. The underlying issues go much deeper, revealing the true nature of the US's strategic calculations. At its core, the US's interest in Greenland isn't just about territorial expansion. It's about the underlying mechanism of global power dynamics. The US, as a world leader, has always sought to maintain its influence, especially in regions that have growing strategic value. The Arctic, with its vast resources and new shipping routes, is one such region. The US military presence in Greenland has been ongoing for decades. But now, the increasing tension in the Arctic, driven by Russian and Chinese interest, makes Greenland's position even more critical. This is no longer just a matter of land acquisition, it's about the US asserting its dominance in a region that's becoming a key battleground for global influence. So, what happens when the US puts its weight behind something like this? What are the implications for the future of the Arctic and global security? As the US continued to press for Greenland, the situation began to escalate. The stakes were raised when the European Union, along with other global powers, made it clear They would not tolerate any actions that threatened the sovereignty of Greenland or Denmark. The EU issued a joint statement supporting Denmark, emphasizing the importance of territorial integrity. Meanwhile, within the US, there was a growing political divide. Some saw the potential acquisition of Greenland as a bold move for national security, while others criticized it as reckless and dangerous. These mixed reactions were felt worldwide. The idea of a military intervention in a peaceful region sparked fears of conflict in the Arctic, a region once considered remote from the global stage. What would the world look like if the US pursued this path? Could this lead to a new Cold War in the Arctic? The stakes have never been higher. As the world watches, the question remains, what impact will this move have on the people of Greenland and the global community at large? For the people of Greenland, the idea of being caught in the middle of this geopolitical struggle is nothing short of terrifying. Greenlanders have long enjoyed self-government, though Denmark still holds control over foreign policy and defense. But the US's interest in their land isn't just a distant political issue, it's deeply personal. Many Greenlanders, particularly the younger generation, fear the implications of being part of a geopolitical game. They worry that the US might ignore their wishes, treating them as mere pawns in a much larger conflict. For them, Greenland isn't just land, it's their home, their identity. The emotional impact is clear. We are already claimed by the Greenlandic people, says Morgan Angaju, a resident of Ilulissat. This is a land that belongs to them, and they're not willing to let it be bargained away. How would you feel if your homeland was caught in the crossfire of such global ambitions? Would you stand up for your sovereignty? But the concerns of Greenland's people are just the beginning. The ripple effects of these ambitions will be felt much farther. The US's pursuit of Greenland is not just a local issue. It has the potential to shake the very foundations of global geopolitics. The Arctic is becoming an increasingly contested region, and the stakes are high. If the US were to acquire Greenland, it would significantly shift the balance of power in the Arctic, giving the US an even stronger foothold in the region. But the consequences would go beyond the Arctic. The response from NATO allies, particularly European countries, has already shown signs of strain. The idea of the US taking military action against a fellow NATO member raises questions about the future of the alliance. If the US can act unilaterally in Greenland, what does that mean for the rest of the world's security framework? Russia and China, already active in the Arctic, would likely see this as an escalation. The race for Arctic dominance would intensify, leading to heightened tensions in a region that has long been peaceful. What does this mean for the future? Will these tensions lead to a new global order, or will the world find a way to work together in the face of rising threats? As tensions in the Arctic rise, we must ask, what does the future hold for Greenland, the US, and the world? Let's consider three possible scenarios. Scenario 1. The optimistic path. In this scenario, cooler heads prevail. Diplomacy wins out, and the US and Denmark reach an agreement that respects Greenland's sovereignty while allowing for increased cooperation on Arctic security. Greenland remains part of Denmark, but the US and other NATO allies work together to address the strategic challenges of the region. Scenario 2. The middle ground. Here, the US continues to push for influence in the Arctic, but tensions simmer. Greenland's political status becomes more complex, with greater autonomy granted to the island. However, the balance of power remains fragile, and the threat of conflict is always present. Scenario 3. The worst case. The US moves forward with military action, and Greenland is forcibly brought into the American fold. This would lead to a breakdown of NATO unity, provoke fierce international condemnation, and likely ignite a new Cold War-like conflict in the Arctic. Whatever the outcome, one thing is certain. The choices made in the coming years will shape the future of the Arctic and global security for generations to come. The situation in the Arctic is reaching a tipping point. The future of Greenland and the world's approach to this increasingly important region will have lasting consequences. If the US's ambitions for Greenland succeed, it could reshape global politics in ways we can't fully anticipate. But if diplomacy prevails, we may see a more cooperative, peaceful future in the Arctic. In the end, the question remains, will the world come together to protect sovereignty and peace, or will power struggles tear us apart? The next steps will determine not just the future of Greenland, but the global order itself. This is a moment of historical importance. What do you think the future holds for the Arctic? How should the world respond? It's time for us all to take a step back and consider the consequences of these decisions, because the world is watching.